Hello everyone and welcome to our English session. Today I am going to start the session with a question, and the question is why there is difficulty in our life, why we always feel that there are hardships in our life. Probably the answer is in the poem that we are going to discuss in today's session. Dear students, in today's session we are going to discuss unit number 2.4. It's a poem. The title of the poem is The Pulley. The poet of the poem is George Herbert. Let me give you some information about the poet first. George Herbert was born in 1593 and he passed away in the year 1633. He was a Welsh poet. By profession, he was a priest. The poetry that he wrote was full of imagery. He wrote devotional poems. The present poem that we are going to discuss today also is a devotional poem. It is a metaphysical poem as well. Again, you will be having a question in your mind. What is metaphysical poem? Let me answer this question first before I actually discuss the poem. Dear students, metaphysical poem, this word has two words in it. The word meta means after. So the literal translation is after physical. It means metaphysical poems, they deal with the world that is beyond our physical existence. The themes, the topics handled in metaphysical poetry are from metaphysics. Now, what is metaphysics? It is not to deal with science or maths. Metaphysics is something that tries to explore the questions that cannot be answered by science. Metaphysics deals with the reality's nature in philosophical way. For example, questions like, does God exist? Or a question that is everything predetermined that happens in our life? So such questions are explored in metaphysics in a philosophical way. And in this sense, metaphysical poems deal with the topics, the themes or the subjects that are exploring these philosophical questions. The current poem that we are going to discuss today, The Pulley, is also a metaphysical poem. I hope you have understood what does it mean by metaphysical poetry and what topics are handled in metaphysical poems. Now let me explain in short about the writing style of the metaphysical poets. It is very important to discuss this topic if we wish to understand the poetry and if we wish to enjoy the metaphysical poetry. One of the unique features of metaphysical poetry is the use of conceit. What is conceit? Metaphysical poets, they compared dissimilar things, unlikely things. For example, a comparison of lover is made with a compass, or soul is compared with a dewdrop. So such weird comparisons, these weird metaphors, they are known as conceit. But I personally feel that when these poetry, when these poets wrote these poems, when this poetry was written, that was a Renaissance period in Europe. And we know very well that during Renaissance period, people started thinking rationally. because that was the period of new scientific inventions. That was the period of geographical discoveries. So I feel that these equipments of science or discoveries of geographies, they might have reflected in the poems. And so metaphysical poetry has conceit in it. Okay. In the present poem, the entire theme is conceit. The poet uses the metaphor of pulley. The poet believes that God uses the pulley, this equipment, to lift up man towards himself. Why God does so? Because God feels that man should always be close to him. When God decided to create man, He bestowed all the gifts, the jewels, the qualities that are required for a better life to mankind. But still, He did not give one of the qualities that made man restless. And because of this restlessness, at least, man would remember God, and this will help him to be close to God. And so, the poem is all about this religious notion. Why I said that it's a conceit? Because pulley, again, is an equipment. It's a machine related to science. And the poet uses it to reflect or to discuss a religious notion. So, this is a conceit. The word pulley, you will find, is not mentioned even for a single time in the entire poem. But the title of the poem is Pulley. It shows the conceit. Hope you got the concept. Let's move ahead. This theme gets absorbed in our mind when we actually read the entire poem. So let's read the poem stanza by stanza first. The first stanza. Let me read it for you. Here it is. When God at first made man, having a glass of blessings standing by, let us, said he, pour on him all we can. Let the world's reaches which dispersed lie contract into a span. The first stanza of the poem narrates what God thought when he created man. The poet says that God has a glass of blessings. Again, it's a metaphor here. He thought that he would be generously showering all those blessings upon the man. God thought that all these treasures of the earth should get concentrated, which are scattered now into a glass, and then I would pour them all for the man. Here the word span can be taken as its literal meaning, and it also means the life of man with both its end, birth and death. The life man lives between these 2 points can said to be the span in which God intended to gift him all the precious blessings. So in the first stanza, we learn that God decided to create man, and at that time he thought to give him all the precious gifts of his blessings so that he would have a good life. Let's move to the second stanza. Here it is. So strength first made a way, then beauty flowed, then wisdom, honor, pleasure. When almost all was out, God made a stay, perceiving that alone of all his treasures, rest in the bottom lay. See, the first gift that God gave to man was strength. This gift was then followed by beauty, then wisdom, honor, and even pleasure. In this way, when God almost gave all his blessings to man, he stopped for a while. He thought that there is one quality, there is one blessing that is left at the bottom. And he gave a thought whether this quality to be bestowed on man or not. Dear students, in this stanza, the word rest can be interpreted in two ways. See, I'll read the last line again. Perceiving that alone of all his treasures, rest in the bottom lay. Rest, it may mean that the gift of quality of rest, that is left at the bottom. And the other meaning is, it is only one thing that is left in the glass. Okay? What does it mean by quality of rest? It means the quality to relax, which will help man to be satisfied, to be contented. Okay? So whether to give this quality to man or not, God gave a thought for. So this was the second stanza. Now let's move ahead and see whether God finally decided to give this quality to man or not. I'll read stanza number 3. For if I should, said he, bestow this jewel also on my creature, he would adore my gifts instead of me, and rest in nature, not the God of nature. So both should losers be. God said to himself that if he gave this precious and valuable gift to his creation, that is man, man would love and worship only the gifts that are there in the nature, and he would not love God who has created these gifts in the nature for him. Man would forget God, and if it would happen, God said that both man and God would lose each other. They would not remain close to each other. Sorry. So here we come to know that when God gifted man with all the blessings that made his life wonderful, God expected that man should remember him. God expected that man should be grateful to him. God also expected that man should always be close to God, because man was God's creation. Okay, I hope you are getting it. Dear students, in this stanza, in stanza number 3, again I would like to focus your attention to the word rest. Again here it has a different interpretation. See, I'll read the line. Where it is? Yeah, I got it. He would adore my gifts instead of me and rest in nature, not the God of nature. Here the word rest means man would rest, he would relax or enjoy the benefits of nature, and he would forget God. Okay? Hope you got the meaning of the third stanza. Now we are moving towards the end of the poem. It is the last stanza of the poem. This poem has got 4 stanzas. So let's read the 4th one. Yet let him keep the rest, but keep them with repining restlessness. Let him be rich and weary, that at last, if goodness lead him not, yet weariness may toss him to my breast. So God showered all the gifts upon man, except the quality of rest. Okay? Due to which, even if man gets wisdom, honor, pleasure, beauty, everything that makes his life worth living, man is continuously anxious. He is restless. He is dissatisfied. God left man restless and dissatisfied. And what is the reason behind it? God thought that let man should be rich and should be enjoying the abundance of gifts that he had bestowed upon him, but he should always remain tired. He should always remain restless. And this tiredness, this restlessness would make him remember the God. This tiredness would take him close to God. If not in pleasures, man would at least remember God in tough times, in difficult situations. And so, God did not give the gift of rest to man. He took it to himself. He kept it to himself. And rest all the gifts, the blessings were showered upon man. And in this way, the poet tells us that man always feels restlessness. He becomes tired. He feels weariness. And in such times, in the moments of irritation, frustration, in the moments of helplessness, he always remembers God. In this way, with the pulley, God actually lifts man close to himself. So this is what the poem Pulley is. I hope you understood the poem. Now let's quickly discuss the rhyme scheme used in the poem. In the 4 stanzas, a same rhyme scheme has been used by the poet, and the rhyme scheme is A, B, A, B, A for the first stanza. For the second one, it is C, D, C, D, C. For third stanza, it is E, F, E, F, E. And for the last one, it is G, H, G, H, G. When you take your textbook and read the lines of the poem, you will be able to understand this rhyme scheme in better way, because you can relate these words to the words in the poem that rhyme with each other. Okay? Let's move ahead. And I'll be discussing only the important figures of speech used in the poem. The one is sorry. The one important figure of speech in the poem is pun. See the line, rest in the bottom lay. Here, the word rest can be interpreted in 2 different ways. So this line is an example of pun. Next is metaphor. The poem in itself is full of comparisons, imagery and metaphor. And the line as an example can be taken as a glass of blessings. Okay. See, the next figure of speech is climax, and the line is then beauty, float, and wisdom, honor, pleasure. Here these qualities are arranged in ascending order, so it's a climax. Inversion, rest in the bottom lay, and the other line of inversion is so both should losers be. Here these lines are not in correct prose order. They can be rest lay in the bottom, and the other correct structure of the line should be so both should be losers. Okay, so in this way this is inversion. And one more figure of speech that is there, it is paradox. The example is let him be rich and weary. Here 2 opposite ideas are brought together in a single sentence. In this way, today's session was all about a devotional metaphysical poem, The Pulley, written by George Herbert. I hope you understood the poem and you also have understood the figures of speech and rhyme scheme used by the poet. Thank you so much.